Hello. My name is Sebastian Morales, and this is my project for my 6 milestones. And this is milestone one. This is first milestone. It's called Doctor, Pre-Medical and Postgraduate Journey. And initially, I considered the job of a psychiatrist, and the person who I'd say um, inspired me or gave me an interest in the first place to become a psychiatrist would be my pediatrician that has been taking care of my health since I was like 9 years old. Mental, physical, and emotional health. Um, he displays a level of professionalism and care to his patients, which I admire, and I would like to show that same uh, professionalism and care for others in any career that I would be adopting. In this case, it would be psy, to become a psychiatrist. Not to get ahead of myself, but by the end of the milestones, I reconsidered my career choice. But as I'm reading, I will look at it from the point of view from when I made the first milestone. Then my work location, it would likely be um in say personal practice, like say my own clinic, or maybe as I have written down here to help in areas where healthcare is more scarce, like in rural areas of Texas, where there's not as much healthcare or access to healthcare as in the urban areas, say like in San Antonio. Um, and in the group meet, I was able to see the birds of a feather stronger together, and I was made aware of um, how having a good environment can help you have a better mental health. And I just wanted to include that as a um, as a psychiatrist. If I were to have my own clinic, I'd probably, I don't know, include plants, or maybe make it as, I guess, not so opaque and white like some hospitals are, where you feel like it's like basically like no mental stimulation. So maybe something like that would help. Um, yeah. Thank you for your time so far. And as a Catholic, I want to make my family and my friends happy. I want to be eventually in the position where I can give back and I can help the people that have helped me get to this position, and just help them. Just give back in the way that I can. Many family and friends have encouraged me to come this far. Without a doubt, I would not have taken the leap of faith to go to UTSA without the encouragement of my friends and family. I'm very thankful for them, and currently right now, just constantly, I guess, constantly working towards a goal is in large part to them. And yeah, and what I hope to, God willing, get a degree in medicine and complete the plans offered in UTSA. For the I haven't looked into it. I would have to talk to my academic advisor to change that, to change my classes to fit the pre-medical plans offering UTSA, and to hopefully be admitted into a medical school. And that would be my first milestone. And here is my interview. Okay, it's my interview reflection. Happy to be here. And the interview process was insightful. Um, I learned that I was being like I say, like a fake humble, like playing victim, which really doesn't serve anyone. Um, my team members, I learned a lot from them. They were very inspired, and they weren't ashamed as they should be. No one should be ashamed to show the zeal and the happiness that they have for their career and for their interests and for their goals. I I was given advice to have a healthy level of confidence and to express the the interest that I have in my passions and in my goals. Mm. And also, I didn't really think, or rarely, or almost never considered the role of the interviewer. I say now that as an interviewer, being attentive and just being honest about just being happy about just the things that you're interested in really helps the interviewer get to know you better. In that ways, I feel like it's helped me to be in the shoes of the interviewer and the interviewee both. And yeah, I'm really grateful for my group number 5. They've been very helpful. Mhm. Still creating. This is my milestone 3. Excuse me. This would be my function and its derivative, which I used to um, reflect the amyloid beta cycle. Here I have my function 2x over 7 plus x squared. And to summarize this portion, I essentially use the function to represent the amount of amyloid beta, a normal peptide in your body, specifically in the cerebrospinal fluid and in your brain, as it accumulates throughout the day. X would represent the amount of hours, and I limited the equation from 0 to 12 hours to represent the moment you go to sleep to when you, um, or it would be throughout the afternoon and its disposal during sleep. And the derivative would represent the rate of change of this concentration of amyloid beta throughout those 12 hours. And here, these equations would also have inflection points and critical points. One for the critical point, you can say the critical point represents the maximum amount of amyloid beta that will be collected, which is when you're most tired and when you want to go to that's right before you go to sleep. And as you're sleeping, that inflection point represents the fastest rate of what would be now after milestone 6 would be your rate out, your fastest rate of change of the amyloid beta leaving your brain and your cerebral spinal fluid. And oops, sorry. Oops, well, I don't know what happened. I'm sorry about that. Let me go back. Here you go. And I learned this for the first time upon reading a science journal, and I found one of the main causes of Alzheimer's disease is not getting enough sleep throughout the day, and your diet, mostly sleep. So I learned something that I'm still working on: sleeping plenty and sleeping at the right time. This is very important. And thank you for your time so far. And this is for Riemann sums. This is when I was still considering to be, I guess still am, to be considering a psychiatrist. I was researching substance abuse and ways to treat it. one of the healthy alternatives to substance abuse is exercising, because substance abuse and exercise, they both activate the same neural pathways for pleasure and reward systems that give you dopamine that make you feel good. So maybe a way to replace that desire for substance abuse, maybe you could replace it with something more positive like exercise. And also research that this has to be moderate. This cannot be excessive. Then you're just replacing something bad with something that's not good, which doesn't do good for the patient. So you would, or for the person that would be that's trying to get healed from substance abuse. So it would have to be moderate exercise. I'm not sure if I included it here. It is something that I did learn. And here we use the Riemann sums, which is taking step sizes or gaps or errors and adding the sum of those of the rectangles made by the gaps and finding the area, which would be your total change in whatever you're measuring. In this case, would be the concentration of dopamine in the plasma in millimoles per deciliter. And here I showed what each gap, how much constant the how much increase in concentration after I take the area of all the squares underneath the derivative graph. And for your left hand and right hand sum, here I have my ooh, that's an error. Um, I will make sure to fix that before um, before publishing this. I will change that to a right hand sum. Sorry about that. Mm, here it's shown well. Here are the squares. Here's the derivative graph, and you take the sum of these, and you get your total rate of change. Here I define my variables. X is in seconds, and the function f of x is the rate of change, which would be the derivative, the rate of change in dopamine concentration, which is micromoles per over deciliters per second. And this would be the normal function, and you have to limit it because this is not realistic. So if you limit it, you can get a realistic amount of dopamine increase, and your initial value would be your homeostatic or your normal amount. Like you could say your resting amount of dopamine when nothing like exercise or something that would cause a spike in dopamine. Just your normal amount would be your starting amount. And that's how I limited my graph. And thank you for your time so far. This would be my milestone 5. Mm, Here. So this would be the same scenario as the one in milestone 3. For this scenario, we're going to use the fundamental theorem of calculus, which is the most precise way of calculating the total rate of change or the area underneath the graph for a graph of a derivative function. Here you can see the graph of the derivative. Here it's limited, and if we can find the exact area underneath this curve by using the fundamental theorem of calculus. And here it's the same scenario essentially. Here you can see, instead of the squares, which you can, as they approach and the gap approaches, they become infinitely small. You get infinitely more precise measurements. This one gives you the exact measurement, and here would be the exact area, and here by taking the antiderivative, the integral of the interval of where we limited our graph, we can see that the exact concentration of dopamine in the plasma after after it would be 2 seconds after exercising or substance intake. The reason these are used interchangeably is because these two can possibly activate the same neural pathways that give you the dopamine spike. So the for this case, I use them interchangeably, and here you can see we take the integral of the interval, and we get the total area under the graph, which would be your total increase in dopamine in the plasma. And the Riemann sums, it can be infinitely more precise. However, the fundamental theorem of calculus is exactly precise. I learned, however, when using the Riemann sums for this case, it did not make much of a difference. There was only a zero the difference of 0.001 micromoles per deciliter of increase in plasma concentration. Mm, In the right, so when comparing the fundamental theorem of calculus and the Riemann sum, there was only a 0.01, just 0.001 difference, almost no difference. For a case like this, where you're just trying to, where the main goal is to emphasize that exercise and substance abuse both increase dopamine, the exact precision is not super necessary as it say would be in an engineering project, as it was mentioned earlier in one of the earlier lessons in class. Mm, for this case, it or you could also say it's a 0.0305% difference or 0.001 nanomole difference. It's a very small difference. However, undoubtedly, the fundamental theorem of calculus is more precise than the Riemann sums. For this case, it will not affect the goal that you're trying to get across, which would be that dopamine increases whether you're exercising or whether it's substance abuse. These both increase dopamine, and both of these methods show this. Yeah, thank thank you so far. Um, try my best. Differential equations. This would be the differential equation and antibiotics in the body. I used amoxicillin, an antibiotic. This would relate back to the psychiatrist's job. As a psychiatrist, as any career in medicine, you have to know the basic physiological process or the way when you take a medicine or how it's metabolized out of the body, and how the amount present in your body at a certain hour affects how fast it's metabolized. So understanding those processes are very important for any career in medicine, whether it be a surgeon or a psychiatrist. And for my this scenario, the differential equation of 65 minus 0.2y, where y represents, well, before I get into what y represents, the differential equation of 65 minus 0.2y would represent the rate of change in amoxicillin blood concentration in milligrams over the change in time in hours. This the this would be your rate of change, and your rate in this case would be your positive 65 milligrams, which would be this portion, and your rate out would be this portion, which would be the negative 0.2y, where 0.2 represents the first First, the radian would be the amount of amoxicillin you would take every hour. In milligrams, then your rate would be the amount that's metabolized out proportional to the amount of amoxicillin left in the body. You can say, since it's a rate out, 0.2% of the amoxicillin in the body at a given hour is um, is metabolized, or it goes out of the body. Amoxicillin is a penicillin derivative. By penicillin derivative, penicillin is the original antibiotic from the fungus found by Alexander Fleming, and since then we have made derivatives of penicillin. Amoxicillin, you essentially add an amino group, which, if I'm not mistaken, no, actually, I want to say it broadens the range of the bacteria that it can inhibit. However, I don't want to give false information, so I, I'm not sure if I can speak on that. And the solution for my differential equation would be 325 minus 325 times e to the power of 0.20x. This would be, this y of x would be the same as what the y in our differential equation is. The differential equation would be a rate of change, and our solution to our differential equation would be how to accurately predict the amount of amoxicillin concentration in the blood at a given hour. And when using Euler's method, it is very effective. You can see that the dots aren't too far off of the graph solution, and they eventually line up to match the when the graph solution reaches its equilibrium, and it kind of like does like an asymptote. The little dots also start aligning with the graph solution, and a smaller step size produces a more precise prediction of amoxicillin concentration in the blood than a larger step size. In this case, H2 is much more precise than H4. And I use the XY table as well as the Euler's method and the graph solution results to say that the equilibrium point would be 325 milligrams. Afterwards, I graphed it on Desmos, and I saw that this was the case. This means that after the patient has taken 65 milligrams of amoxicillin every hour for 20 hours, it won't be effective anymore. The body will just metabolize it at a rate where, even if you take over 325 milligrams, even if you continue to take 65 milligrams every hour after you have done so for 20 hours, it will not go above 325 milligrams. This is important to know in the medical field, or in for any medical career, so that you understand why drugs are effective at certain doses and why prescriptions are given in large doses less frequently. You wouldn't want to give, it would be much more practical and effective to give large doses over a longer span of time than a lot of little doses over a short amount of time. And understanding how they can essentially plateau in effectiveness because of the body's metabolism, as I said earlier, allows doctors to prescribe more effective prescriptions, or to prescribe more effective prescriptions. Here would be my step size of 4. Ooh, I have to fix that as well. I'm sorry. This would be my step size of 2, and this would be my step size of 4. I labeled these incorrectly. As you can tell, with the step size of 2, the dots are further away from the graph solution. However, with the step size of 2, it does. Oh no, I'm sorry. No, yeah, okay. These would be labeled correctly. I apologize. The step size of 4 is further away from the graph solution, whereas the step size of 2 is closer. to the graph solution. So you can say a smaller step size when using Euler's method is more precise, or the Euler's method, also known as tangent line approximation, is more precise. And for my reflection, I thought about reconsidering my career choice as a psychiatrist. I have a great respect for all psychiatrists, as they have to have a degree of mental fortitude, you can say, when dealing with patients with mental illness and building those long-term relationships. Mm, I would say that's true of any, almost, yeah, I'd say just in life in general and any career in medicine. That's something that I have to learn to, a responsibility that I have to learn to take on. Um, just as I grow, hopefully, that's one of the things that made me reconsider becoming a psychiatrist. Maybe as I grow, um, I I will still become a psychiatrist, or I might not. Only well, only I can't know for certain. Um, Something I did notice is that as I completed each milestone, I realized almost all the scenarios, almost all the scenarios involved drugs in the body and how they are metabolized. This is important for any career, as I mentioned earlier, whether you're a psychiatrist or whether you're a surgeon. It's really important to know how these drugs affect your body. So maybe I also consider becoming a surgeon. That's one of the careers that I'm really interested in. And I more important than anything, even if I don't get a job in medicine, as long as I'm helping people, that's really the main priority. I would say I want to dedicate my career to something where I can help people, and as I mentioned earlier, being in a position where I can help my friends and family. And as I mentioned earlier, one of the probably the single most important lesson I learned from the interviews is to just express how happy you are about what you care about and your goals. It's really essential. It allows the interviewer to see the not only where your interests lie, but just getting to know you more. And I feel like that's a good thing in general. Calculus in the medical field, there are plenty of careers that involve the administration or prescription of drugs. Say a a well, and one of the careers you can say is an anesthesiologist. They have to be very aware of the amount of drug that they give you. They want to make sure that they're giving it to you at the right time and the right amount as well. It's very important. And one of the things I had not been aware of before when learning about calculus would be the concept of the rate in and the rate out, and how and the concept of equilibrium. It allowed me to think of why drugs are effective at certain doses and why they stop being effective after taking for too long of a time. At a certain time, they become ineffective, and they sort of, you can say, plateau or peak or approach zero. There's the slope of the graph solution approaches zero, and they're no longer as effective. Also, one of the things that I've learned that, as I mentioned earlier, I have to work on is the importance of sleep and when you sleep for preventing the development of neurological diseases as you age. That's something I learned by applying calculus. Whether as I mentioned earlier, whether you're a surgeon or psychiatrist, these basic physiological facts are necessary when understanding how the human body works. Mm, I had never learned calculus. Never. I hadn't had a calculus class before until I had taken this course. I'm really happy to learn calculus. Mm, it's a great field of math because it kind of makes you have like a mathematical like perspective of the world. Like, so I got a job and I haven't been responsible for money the way I've been now. It made me think of how my savings and my expenses line up. So I thought of doing like a system of equations, something that sounds funny, but I actually considered it doing, which is kind of funny. Um, just to know what I would spend my money on and what not to spend my money on. Yep, I can say that I had a I love learning calculus, and thank you, Miss Cindy, for helping me learn calculus and teaching me how to apply it to my own field. And this is my Bitmoji for graduation, and that would be it. And I'd like to say thank you.